My mother drives a manual car. It's the only time she's fearless, the only time she takes charge. I watch her sometimes, making sure the chicken drumsticks are well prepared because my father, as the head of the house, must have 2 well-prepared drumsticks on the nights we have chicken. She gets up too quickly when he hoots outside, and not in an excited way, but in an unsettled, almost fearful way. She sits through all-day funeral services for her very distant relatives, and she does the same for weddings too, because she's giving that way. But for every event, she must have permission. She believes in witchcraft, which makes her believe in God even more. She hates it when I say that I'm highly uncertain about God. She always asks if she looks okay and then changes in the last minute anyways, and she won't let me drive her unless I'm with a male driver. And she wants to drive big cars, even when they're automatic. She dreams of traveling the countries, but the buses leave without her every year. She chooses to remain in the kitchen instead of entertaining the guests. Well, the wives of the guests, that is, because that is how it has been for years. The women will talk about women things, and the men will talk business and come up with solutions, and we'll all sit around and laugh at their repeated jokes. She has great ideas but won't share them. She has interesting opinions but doubts them. She gets a monthly allowance and is almost always inside the house. I have a recurring dream, and in this dream I go to the beach with my mother, and it's just us two, and we're talking about the usual. And I tell her what it is that I'm doing with my life, something she doesn't still quite understand. And she insists on a job that I should apply in Zanzibar. And I tell her I'm okay doing what it is that I'm doing, Mama. But she insists, and I snap. But I feel bad because I never mean to. And in this dream, I'm on the first bus out for a very long time anyways. So I apologize. And she says, it's okay. You're just short-tempered like your father. Afterwards, I ask her, Mama, can I ask you a question? Have you ever said a bad word? I don't know. And she doesn't even let me finish the sentence, so she puts her hand to cover up my mouth so she can cover up with whispering in fear. I look around and I tell her, Mama, it's just us here. We can scream bad words into the ocean. It can take it, at least this once. And in this dream, she believes me. So she gets up and leaves me behind and moves on outwards until her feet are in the water. You see, my mother is just a girl who had dreams of becoming a writer someday. But when she was 5, she was told that if she spoke too loudly, they would come and get her. Ukipiga makelele, ukiimba sana, watakuiba. So she whispered all the time. When she was 15, in a house of 1 girl and 6 boys, she did all the house chores even when she had national exams. When she was 25, she had kids. And because of breastfeeding and my father's short temper and her fear of them coming to get her, and out of loneliness and necessity hanging around other mothers who sat around gossiping, and were also told by their fathers not to raise their voices. Because of all this, she stopped picking out the dresses she liked. When she was 35, she began wearing head wraps. And not because she was particularly good at head wrapping, but because she once went to a party with my father and all his friends' wives wore head wraps. When she was 45, she began writing short stories, and it was an exciting time, but she stopped halfway. And when I asked her why, she said she was busy. She also stopped wearing trousers at that time. Mothers with teenagers don't wear trousers, she said. My mother is now 55, and she's screaming "f*** into the ocean. Again and again and again. I'm crying because I know she's crying. But it's just a dream. Because she's home right now, still pensive when she hears a car hooting outside. And he's making sure the chicken drumsticks are well prepared because it is chicken night. I'm going to ask her a question the next time I see her, which is, why do we set ourselves on fire to keep someone else warm? Thank you. I am Rukia, the Annoying Artist. I write about my fears, experiences, and social issues that I see in my community. I write about the things that I have a burning desire to say out loud, but I'm not very sure sometimes whether I can. So you can imagine how I felt when I first wrote that piece, Manual Car. What was my family going to think? My siblings, my mother. In fact, I shared it under a pseudonym at first, terrified to have my name behind it. But it was precisely because of this fear, which is an obvious indication of how important it must be to bring it up, that I decided I must. Because I absolutely believe that self-expression is not only an essential tool for personal or individual realization, but for societal change. But to get self-expression become a tool, all begins in how we approach what I understand to be very important questions. Questions like, how do we communicate with one another, with our family, our friends, our neighbors, our students? How do we create an environment that helps us access the most meaningful parts of ourselves and bring forth the things that we've been told to keep quiet about so that others can be inspired? How do we encourage an active mind in the way we communicate and educate our children? But not just that. In general, what creative encouragement is every one of us getting, regardless of our age in our society? My quest to answer this question comes in the way I live and what I do, which I'll come to shortly. But briefly, this. I have always felt at home with the arts. Storytelling is a joy of mine. But I didn't always start this way. I took up sciences all the way to school, and I landed on biochemistry at university. So I didn't sleep for 2 days, knowing that I was about to break the news to my African parents that I was going to take a completely opposite direction, that I was going to explore this side of myself fully. The response to which was, of course, come again? It was weeks of, Baba, talk to your mother, talk to your mother. Mama, talk to your father, talk to your father. And my voice shook. And through this unwelcoming exchange, I thought of the many out there who wouldn't set on the path that spoke to their most authentic selves because of the usually demotivating perception of the creative world that exists in an African culture. So it was obvious to me that if I didn't set out on mine, if I didn't follow this journey of uninhibited creative expression and hopefully through that inspire others to do the same, then it may be way worse than I think because perhaps no one else would. The point is, pursuing arts in Tanzania, for example, is seen by most as being undecided about life. I'm still being asked until today, have you decided what you're going to do with your life yet? Arts is something you do on your way to making a proper decision, it seems, because it is not what productivity looks like. And there's many ways to look at why this is so. And an idea that stems from conversations, very interesting conversations that I've had, participated in or listened to, being that perhaps because as a people, as Africans, we have had to be very strong and sure of our identity all the way throughout history and even now as we continue to face great challenges on our continent, that maybe somewhere along the way we decided that art and open expression is something that will make us seem weak. So we deny ourselves contemplation and angst and questioning the ways of life around us because we view that process as a luxury that only wealthy foreigners are privileged enough to have time for. But it's also true that we go through everything everyone else does. Loneliness, confusion, disappointment, dissatisfaction, disconnection. But the culture of sharing that or discussing that or even at the very least admitting that is not encouraged. Another way to look at why this is so can be done by understanding a particular set of people in the community. And this can be conveniently summed up in a conversation I had with a friend of mine, almost 40 soon. And we were talking about his passion for music. And I asked him why it was something that he left behind. To this, he said, I asked him, why isn't it something that he even does on the side? And to this, he said, Rukia, I am an African family man running an organization. You get to explore in the name of this creative, celebrated millennial boom that's happening. It's way easier for you because you're much younger and even more so because you're starting out. For me, it's not the same story. So it became apparent to me that, at least in the African context, for certain people who have reached a certain social status and age, creative and self-expression is not something that the society around them expects of them. So much so that it becomes something they do not expect of themselves. and what a pity that is. But lastly, on a separate but equally important point is that even for those who pursue arts and creativity full-time and for income, usually have their creativity kept dormant. And I can explain this using the city, for example, Arusha, where we cater to what sells to the foreigners and not what speaks to us. Almost every canvas out there, for example, is a variation on a theme of the jumping Maasai and Mount Kilimanjaro. Or you just shove it all in one picture. Or streets dedicated to shoving Tinga Tinga and Bob Marley portraits and a zebra's behind down your throat. Portraits of a zebra's behind down your throat. And this extends to other arts too, like film and music. Now, it's not to say that there are any artists out there. The likes of Maembe Vitali, for example, and a great example of what is needed and what is important in musical storytelling and sharing his views and concerns about his community, to various artists, known and upcoming, the likes of which are being displayed just outside this room, are great examples of what is needed and what is important. But for the most part, what sells in Tanzanian film and music industry is either hollering at girls, oh, you're so pretty, I'm having a heart attack, touch me here, touch me there, or witchcraft, you know? And I must confess, I dance to these songs whenever they come on, for sure. But to the beat, I'm always thinking, is it great that such a powerful sector of this country with such a massive following and consumption is not making a balanced effort to inspire reflection and societal contemplation and self-analysis, for example? Is that great? No. We do not realize that to communicate something, our creation has to be either or. Either a completely new angle or way of looking at things, which obviously has a potential to spark ideas and prompt important questions and conversations and even solutions. Or relatable, not common or even familiar, but relatable, bringing to light a shared feeling. Yet not very many take that chance. So we know of and consume uninspired work not because the majority want or even like it, but because majority make it. And this completely misses the point, because the value of art is in expressing yourself, not in what's hot and selling. So taking my part in seeing the way forward, I began an event that encourages uninhibited creative expression, and I call it the Annoying Artist. And the Annoying Artist is not strictly a call for artists to perform, it is a platform for individuals to share. When I launched it, I wanted it to be this place where people come to unwind and reflect on their beliefs and opinions and choices. But upon analyzing the points that I just made and many more of the society, I decided it quickly became a fusion of creativity and conversation. So we have a diverse group of people coming to share themselves through song, skits, storytelling, poetry, and the like. But not only that, it is a place where people come together to talk about the things that they wouldn't normally talk about with people that they wouldn't normally talk to. And this is enhanced by the fact that we move around the city to encourage a different crowd each time. And through these diverse conversations, we have 16 to 60-year-olds talking about life and humanity and fears and expertise, learning and unlearning from one another. Because as it has been said and proven, conversation not only reshuffles your cards, it creates new ones. And we have had fantastic exchanges during these events. You know, we have had people share their concerns and views of their countries and communities through song. We have had people work together in great, wonderful interdisciplinary projects after the events. We have had people get the courage to come back to the events and share deeply personal stories, opening up dialogues between friends and families, between students and teachers, among neighbors, among strangers. But most importantly, we've had people be able to look at each other in the eye and go, thank you for sharing. So to wind up, my mission is to host a diverse crowd of people moved by the realization that self-expression is not a foreign luxury, it is a necessity. The idea is not to bring people from sciences and take all of them to arts, for example. No, it is to show that in any way, grand and full-time or minor and part-time, you can share yourself honestly. It is inviting to the people who take the time to say, what is it that I really want to say and reveal in my visuals, in my conversations, in my song, in my performance. And we have such a rich history as Africans of storytelling in all these areas. So it must be continued with just as much vigor as before and taken to be just as important for a richer society. It's time. It's time for Tanzanians, for East Africans, Africans, individuals, all of us here, to begin thinking in whatever way possible of shifting our focus, our identities, from what we do to who we are. Asanteni sana.